Run away now.
During a trip with my husband Andrew, I was whispered to by a stranger at a rest stop.
What do you mean?
I couldn't help but ask back. After hearing her whisper, I was shocked when I looked through Andrew's luggage. What was he planning to do with this? I hurried into the driver's seat. It seemed like Andrew was coming back at that moment. Terrified of Andrew, who appeared in the corner of my eye, I left him behind and drove away from the rest area. My name is Victoria Garcia. I'm 33 years old. I run a company. I've loved clothes since I was young, and after graduating, I went to a vocational school for fashion. I studied design and started my own brand. Because I was always working, I never really had a boyfriend. There were people who showed interest, but I could never quite like them back. As a business owner, I met many people, but most men were only interested in my money or wanted to show me off as a trophy. It felt like no one saw me for who I am. But, at 33, my friends were getting married or having children and starting new lives. I wasn't particularly keen on marriage, but being an only child, my parents began to pressure me into feeling like I should marry. Amidst this, I met a man. His name is Andrew Moore. He's 33, the same age as me. He works at the office, and he's the brother of Thomas Moore, the executive vice president of my company. Thomas has been supporting me since I started my company, and he's one of the people I trust the most. Thomas introduced me to Andrew when their father passed away. I didn't know the details, but it seems their father died suddenly. Their mother had divorced and been separated since they were children, leaving Thomas and Andrew to grow up as just the two of them. Despite their hardships, they both behaved stoically, greeting the mourners properly. Moreover, Andrew was very considerate towards me the first time we met. Acting on Thomas's behalf, he stayed by my side, making sure I didn't feel down by sharing happy memories of their father. I was moved by his thoughtfulness and, knowing he was Thomas's brother, I quickly opened up to him, confident he was a good person. Later, Thomas formally introduced us, and Andrew and I began dating. I was thrilled to have my first boyfriend. But, it didn't take long to notice Andrew's selfishness. Work again? You're the boss, just take a break. Let Thomas handle it. It doesn't work that way. Thomas has his duties, and being the boss isn't as easy as you think. Contrary to what some might think, being an entrepreneur doesn't mean I can take days off at will. In fact, it's quite the opposite, making it hard to take a break. Like other regular businessmen, Andrew was promised to have his weekends off, whereas for me, it was normal to work on weekends. I would often work at home as well. Even so, I made sure to prepare meals and didn't neglect household chores on days Andrew visited. I took his words as his way of wanting to spend more time with me and overlooked his occasional whims and temper. I wanted to cherish my first boyfriend. Although Andrew behaved this way, I believed he cared for me. Even if he wasn't the boyfriend I had imagined, I liked preparing meals for him and looked forward to his visits. After a year of dating, we decided to get married. Thomas was delighted, and I felt a strange connection to becoming his actual sister-in-law. The wedding went smoothly. Being an only child and Andrew being the younger son, Andrew decided to take our family name. It wasn't my or my parents' wish. Andrew himself strongly wished to join my family. Since it was just Victoria in our family, I was ready for her to leave once she got married. You don't have to worry about us, my mother told Andrew, but for some reason, he insisted on taking on our family name. My father also said, I'm sure he has his own thoughts being the younger sibling. If that's what Andrew wants, it's all right for him to change his last name to ours. Ultimately, Andrew changed his last name from Andrew Moore to Andrew Garcia. For me, Changing my surname after getting married would have been a hassle, so in a way, it was a relief. My relatives praised Andrew for becoming a son-in-law for my sake, and I found myself further idealizing him. Sometime after we got married, I brought up the idea of going on a trip. Work had finally settled down, and we had the time, so I wanted to travel with Andrew. It was, in a way, our honeymoon. We brought home brochures from a travel agency and discussed where to go. However, Andrew coldly said to me, "Huh? Abroad? That's a waste of money. Just because you're the boss doesn't mean you should waste money. A once-in-a-lifetime honeymoon trip is a waste of money?" I had to bite my tongue to keep from saying that. "But it's our honeymoon, and we've never gone on a trip together, have we? I want to go somewhere, even if it's just within the country." Andrew sighed at my words. Then, reluctantly, "If it's within the country, then okay." That's right, there's a nice hotel," he said. I really wanted to go abroad, but if Andrew didn't want to, then I couldn't insist. I changed our destination to that hotel. Andrew told me about his recommended hotel, choosing a good room and plan without being too extravagant. And on the day, "Don't worry about anything over here." Thomas sent me that message as we headed out on our trip. Gratefully accepting his words, I went to the hotel in Andrew's car. During the ride, Andrew seemed in good spirits, and I enjoyed myself too. Let's stop by the travel center. They have famous bread here. We won't be able to eat dinner if we do. Laughing, Andrew agreed to stop at the travel center. We enjoyed the gourmet food there, took photos, and had a good time. After spending some time there, when Andrew suggested we should head out, I nodded. "I'm going to have a smoke first. You can go back to the car." Andrew was a smoker. Since I don't smoke, he gave me the keys when I said I'd go back to the car first. "All right. I'll buy some coffee and head back." I took the keys and went to the coffee corner of the store. But there, for a moment, I felt a chill down my spine. Looking around, nothing seemed amiss. Thinking it was just my imagination, I reached for the coffee. No one was at the register, but upon seeing me, a store clerk hurriedly opened the register. "It's $2. Can I pay with a card?" After a transactional conversation and paying, I was about to grab the coffee when she gripped it tightly, refusing to let go. "What's going on?" Barely managing to speak, she whispered to me,
Run away now.
"What?"
If you don't, you'll become their prey.
Shocked, I was frozen. As her grip on the coffee loosened, our eyes met. Maybe the chill I felt earlier was her gaze. Her intense stare made me lose any desire to resist, and I whispered,
What do you mean?
"You're with Andrew Moore, right?" He's Andrew Garcia now, but knowing Andrew's maiden name meant she had seen us together and approached me. Confused, I nodded. "Go to the police now. If you don't believe me, look through his luggage. There must be something." The store clerk then let go of my coffee. Andrew shouldn't have been back yet. Gripping the keys tightly, I rushed back to the car. Though I didn't understand her reason, there must have been one. Not thinking it was a prank, I immediately checked Andrew's luggage upon returning to the car. "What is this?" And, looking inside, I was terrified. Andrew's luggage contained a bottle with sleeping pills, a shovel, a large knife, and work clothes. What was he planning to do? Just imagining it scared me. I quickly closed the trunk and got into the driver's seat. I could see Andrew emerging from the smoking area. Then, as if fleeing, I quickly stepped on the accelerator. Andrew, seeing the car move, looked surprised. But I was terrified of Andrew, who appeared in the corner of my eye, and left the travel center without looking back. From there, I acted without thinking. I got off the highway, searched for a police station, and took refuge there. "Please help me!" Shaking, I ran into the police, and they took me in, wondering what had happened. I explained the situation. "I found a knife and a shovel in the luggage. I'm sure my husband intends to dismember me." "There's no way that's true." However, I froze at Andrew's voice, who had followed me in. "Andrew, what are you talking about?" And leaving me at the travel center. "It was tough catching a taxi to get here." In front of the police, Andrew scolded me. "Are you her husband? For caution's sake, may we see your luggage?" The police asked Andrew. Yes," Andrew said, and we moved to the parking lot. When the trunk was opened, it revealed exactly what I had seen. The two police officers, too, seemed to doubt that these were items for a trip. But it was Andrew who explained to them. "I'm sorry for the disturbance. The sleeping pills are mine. I can't sleep with a different pillow. And as for the shovel and knife, there's a place near the hotel where you can mine for gold and gems, so I intended to use them for that." Surprised by his explanation, Andrew continued. "My wife is a busy person, so I thought I'd go alone while she rests. I didn't explain this to her, and it seems we've had a huge misunderstanding." With a smile. His explanation sounded too much like an excuse, and my fear only grew. "Come on, let's go." "No! I won't go!" "What's gotten into you all of a sudden?" "Cut it out," Andrew said, sounding exasperated. To the police, I must have seemed like a mad woman. Reluctantly, I left the police station with Andrew. "What's gotten into you, seriously?" Even after leaving the police, Andrew seemed concerned. But even that could have been an act to gain my trust. That night, we arrived at the hotel. What should have been an exciting time felt heavy. "Come on. Take a shower and freshen up." As soon as we arrived, Andrew urged me to take a shower. Feeling uneasy, I headed to the bathroom. But on the way, I realized I had forgotten my face wash in my bag and returned to the room. There should have been only Andrew in the room, but I heard voices inside. I quietly listened in. "That was close, man. Never thought the luggage would be checked. But our plan hasn't failed, has it?" I froze on the spot as the implication of his words became clear. The store clerk at the travel center had said there must be an accomplice. He must be talking to that accomplice on the phone. "Your plan is always perfect, bro. The company will be yours soon. Make sure to start the paperwork for the transfer of ownership." I almost let out a noise and covered my mouth. Bro. Andrew only has one brother. Thomas. Could it be that Thomas had betrayed me too? Perhaps my meeting with Andrew had been arranged from the start. As suspicion turned to certainty, the anxiety and fear inside me vanished. There was no way I was going to let their plan succeed. Pretending I hadn't heard anything, I headed to the shower. Fortunately, there was face wash in the bathroom, and I used it to wash my face. My reflection in the mirror showed my eyes burning with anger, replacing any fear or anxiety. Afterward, I acted as if nothing had happened and returned to the room. "That felt good. You seem to be in a better mood." "Yes. Sorry. I've been so busy with work, maybe I was a bit emotionally unstable. I've reflected on it." Feigning a downcast look, Andrew smiled, seemingly reassured. By acting as if everything was fine, I aimed to let him lower his guard and find an opportunity. "Are you going on the mining experience tomorrow?" "Yeah. That's the plan." "Victoria, you just rest in the room. But when I asked about the mining experience, he still wouldn't meet my eyes. Surely the entire mining experience was a lie, and he intended to bury me. I also needed to find some evidence about Thomas. I was silent, and Andrew also had become distant after lying. To break the awkwardness, I said, "Right. I need to check with Thomas about how his work went today. Why don't you take a shower now, Andrew? It's almost time for dinner." "Yeah, I will." Andrew left the room as if relieved. Watching his actions with understanding, I realized how transparent he was. After Andrew left, I quickly reopened his luggage. Since I had seen it, there was no need for him to hide anything anymore. Still disgusted by the inappropriate luggage for a trip, I took out the bottle of sleeping pills. I emptied its contents and replaced them with the vitamins I had. The vitamin C supplements closely resembled the sleeping pills in color and shape. He probably wouldn't notice the switch. I placed the sleeping pills into my vitamin container. This way, even if he tried to drug me with the bottle's contents, I would be safe. Then, pretending to know nothing, I called Thomas. "Thomas, how was your day?" "Oh, it was fine. Finished my tasks without any trouble and was about to leave work." "You're worried about work, aren't you? Are you enjoying the trip with Andrew?" "Not at all. We're having so much fun I don't even have time to think about work. Though we've had our troubles." When I laughed, he laughed too. Even though Thomas knew what happened. "What happened?" he asked. "I'll tell you when I see you at work," I replied back. "I will see you at work tomorrow, right? Take care." "Yes. I'll contact you if anything comes up." I'm looking forward to hearing your stories. After a brief conversation with Thomas, I hung up the phone. Then, immediately, I called someone else. It was the after-hours number for the office. Employees should still be around at this time. My guess was right. A clerical worker answered, and I asked innocently, "Is Mr. Moore there?" "Mr. Moore? I'm sorry, Mr. Moore has already left for the day." "What about tomorrow?" "Tomorrow? Oh, he won't be returning tomorrow because he's on a business trip." Something's off. Thomas, who just said he was at the office. And I hadn't heard anything about Thomas's business trip tomorrow, nor did he mention it in our previous call. Surely, Thomas is trying to ensure, with utmost care, that I don't catch on to him being in the office. Now that I've seen Andrew's luggage, if I notice anything, he'll insist he was at the office and has nothing to do with Andrew's plans. All right. Thank you. I then hung up the phone. If he's making it seem like he's at the office, maybe he plans to meet up with Andrew. That's what I somehow thought. After coming back from the shower, Andrew was in a great mood. I pretended to be cheerful too. Then, it was time for dinner. Since we ordered room service, our meal was brought to our room. Seeing it, "Wow! This looks delicious!" I exclaimed. "Let's eat." "Go wash your hands first." Andrew kept me away from the meal. He must be planning to mix in sleeping pills. I left the room and headed to the restroom. Leaving the water running and peeping back into the room, sure enough, Andrew took out a bottle of sleeping pills, crushed the supplements inside, and mixed them into my drink. I captured this scene with a silent camera. Turning off the faucet, I sat down as if I'd just returned, and we toasted. Andrew watched me drink. Afterwards, while enjoying a delicious meal, I repeatedly pretended to be drowsily. "You must be tired from traveling. After we're done eating, let's go to sleep early." "You're right." The meal was delicious. To think someone would mix drugs into such wonderful food, what kind of person does that? If you're that sleepy, go to the bathroom first, Andrew said to me, staggering. I followed his suggestion and stood up to go to the restroom. Pretending to do so, I peeked back into the room. Once again, Andrew took supplements from the bottle of sleeping pills and this time mixed them into my soup. Even if it's just supplements, the amount would surely make one sleep deeply. Which must be his intention. After returning from the restroom, I drank the soup with supplements, not leaving a drop. Where's your usual supplement? Andrew asked me, on the verge of falling asleep. Because I rarely forget to take my supplements. However, today I couldn't take them. I'm good for today. So sleepy. Andrew, you can take them if you want. You're tired, right? I deliberately said that to Andrew. Occasionally, Andrew would take my supplements. I didn't think it would go so smoothly, but with those words, Andrew took my supplement. Of course, it was the real sleeping pills I had switched earlier. Afterwards, a staff member from the inn came to collect the dishes. Andrew and I watched as they cleared up, thanked them, and then I dove straight into bed. Hey, you're really going to sleep? I suddenly feel so sleepy, I said quietly and closed my mouth. Then I started to breathe quietly. This stuff really works. Andrew, believing he had made me take the sleeping pills, muttered to himself. After a while, I heard Andrew's voice from next door. Bro? Are you on your way here? It seems the person on the phone is Thomas. And it sounds like he's coming this way. I secretly recorded their conversation with my phone I had in hand. Victoria's asleep. Gave her double the dose of sleeping pills, so she's out cold. Maybe we should drown her like we did with Dad? I couldn't believe my ears when I heard those words. Could it be that they had also done something to his own father? I got it. I'm sleepy too, so I'll take a little nap until you arrive. My heart was racing, and there was no way I could sleep. Just to confirm. The company will be yours, and all of Victoria's insurance money will be mine, right? Well, it'll take some time since it's a disappearance, but that can't be helped. Andrew confirmed this with Thomas as if making sure. It seems they were indeed conspiring to get rid of me. By making it look like I disappeared, Thomas could manage the company without suspicion. And Andrew could boldly play the part of the husband waiting for my return, eventually getting everything. A well-thought-out plan by the smart Thomas. I had been saved by his smarts many times, but if it weren't for that woman I met at the travel center, I surely would have fallen prey to their plan. After the call ended, Andrew, who had taken the sleeping pills, began snoring loudly and fell asleep. Confirming this, I got up. Though not sad, tears fell as I looked at his sleeping face. Then, hastily packing my things, I fled from Andrew again. This time I had undeniable proof. With it, I ran to the police station once more. Unlike during the day, the police believed everything I said this time, as I had come back with evidence. Photos of the moment sleeping pills were mixed into the meal and the recent phone call recording. Presented with irrefutable evidence, police cars rushed to the hotel. Entering the room with the police, there were Thomas and Andrew, still deep in sleep even as he was being woken up. Thomas, surprised by my appearance with the police, turned pale. Boss! Why are you here? And with the police? He must have been in a panic, realizing I was missing upon his arrival. The bed was a mess, and every possible opening, closets and windows, were all open. I know everything about your plan. And about Father too. Thomas hung his head at my words. I never thought I'd be betrayed like this. It's disappointing. Thomas couldn't say anything in response to my words. Even the smart him couldn't think of any excuses this time. We would like to hear the details at the police station. the police said, and took Thomas outside. Andrew, woken up by the police, looked vacant and couldn't comprehend anything as he was taken away. With both of them arrested, I breathed a sigh of relief. Surely, they would face strict interrogation and punishment for both my case and their father's. I hoped this would at least clear some of the resentment. As expected, both received prison sentences. I divorced Andrew. Despite Andrew saying he wouldn't divorce, I was able to do so without issue through the court. It was the obvious outcome. Thomas was fired from the company. Andrew was also fired from his position. Charged with attempting to embezzle the insurance money, it became a major incident, broadcasted on the news daily. While it was a tough time for both the company and myself, when things cooled down, I suddenly became curious about the woman at the travel center who had advised me to flee from Andrew. Without her, I would have unsuspectingly become their victim. I wanted to thank her. And that day came sooner than I thought. "Boss, you have a visitor." The person who visited was the woman who had helped me that day. "I'm glad to see you're safe." "Thank you so much for everything. No amount of thanks can express my gratitude." I bowed deeply. But then, she surprised me with her words. "I should be the one thanking you. For catching those who sent my father to heaven, thank you." "Father?" "My name is Aurora. I'm Thomas and Andrew's sister. I overheard their plan at the funeral and wanted to save you at all costs. And I didn't want my brothers to commit any more crimes." I was speechless. The woman who had helped me was their sister. I hadn't even known they had a sister. I had never heard them talk about her. I was taken in by my mother, so when I met my brothers at the funeral, it had been a really long time. But both of them, they had lost any semblance of the kind brothers they used to be. Learning about what happened to our father was truly shocking. I wanted them to pay for their crimes, but I couldn't say it. "It's all thanks to you, Victoria." When I saw them at the travel spot, I just knew that today was the day. I remembered the serious look in her eyes at that time. There wasn't a trace of doubt, just a serious gaze that made me trust her. Perhaps ironically, it reminded me of Thomas, whom I had trusted. I smiled with genuine relief. Surely, they will atone for their sins. I probably will never forgive them in my lifetime, nor will I ever trust them again. But being able to say that, I think, was also wishing for Aurora's hope to be fulfilled. Afterwards, returning to my single life, I threw myself into my work as before. With all that had happened, my parents stopped nagging me about getting married. I hadn't decided to stay single for life, but I had come to think that I had had enough of marriage. However, 3 years later, I met someone. His name was Ryan and was the president of a new client company, who also had a divorce history, and we hit it off over our shared experiences in divorce and business management. Most importantly, he didn't see me just as a president or for my money. We became great drinking buddies, and eventually, we started dating, planning to marry in the spring. You've had quite the experience. Surely, there won't be any more misfortune greater than that. Your life from now on will be filled with nothing but happiness. Ryan told me so. I can't erase the past. But with Ryan, I feel like I can turn those memories into just past events. And live a future filled only with happiness.